They say history remembers the bold, but it rarely remembers the quiet moments that come just before everything ends. Imagine waking up knowing this is the last sunrise you'll ever see. The light slipping through the narrow window isn't warm. It's cold, pale, and distant, like the world has already started to forget you. The walls around you are made of thick stone, old and damp. The air is still, heavy. It doesn't move. There's no sound except for your own breath and the soft rustle of fabric as you slowly sit up. You haven't slept. You couldn't, not when you know what the day holds. Not when you've spent the night praying, whispering the same words again and again until your throat went dry. This is the Tower of London. This is your prison. But once your palace. Once you were crowned Queen of England. Once crowds cheered your name. Now even your name feels dangerous on people's tongues. You pull the thin blanket tighter, around your shoulders not for warmth, but for comfort. You listen. Footsteps far away. A murmur. Then silence again. You try not to cry. You've done enough of that. There's no time left for tears. Your ladies in waiting are close by, pretending to sleep. They've been with you through every moment, every humiliation, every small mercy. They won't meet your eyes now. Not because they don't care, but because they do. They don't know how to say goodbye. Neither do you. You stand, slowly, carefully, like each movement is borrowed time. Your hands shake as you reach for your dress, the one you've chosen for this day. Gray, with a crimson skirt beneath. You want to look strong? You want them to remember you as you were, proud, brave, unbroken. You brush your hair gently, tie it back, cover it with a simple white cloth. Every movement is deliberate. You are not a queen anymore, but you will meet death like one. There's a knock at the door. It's soft, polite, almost sorry. The lieutenant has come to tell you it's time. You nod, no words. You don't trust your voice. You take a deep breath, hold it, and let it go slowly. This is it. The moment. The world becomes something you are no longer part of. You reach for your rosary. It feels warm in your hand. Not because of faith. Because it's the only thing left that feels real. You walk to the door. Your footsteps echo off the stone. Every step is a memory. Every shadow is a ghost. You're not afraid of the sword. Not really. You're afraid of what comes after, of how you'll be remembered. A villain, a victim, a woman who reached too far. The door opens. The gray morning light spills in, cold and flat. You step through, and behind you, the door closes forever. You step out into the gray light. The cold air bites at your skin, but you don't flinch. Somewhere in the distance, a bell begins to ring. Slowly. Once. Then again. It's not loud, but it fills the space like a warning, echoing off the tower. Walls. Each note feels heavier than the last. You walk down the narrow corridor, your hands folded, your eyes fixed ahead. There is no crowd yet. Just guards. Silent. Faces turned away. No one dares meet your gaze. Not because you are dangerous, but because you are already half gone. Outside, the courtyard waits. The wooden scaffold stands in the center like something out of a dream. It looks too small to carry the weight of what's about to happen. A block of fresh straw lies beneath it. You see it and realize it's meant to catch your blood. You don't look away. You've spent days preparing for this moment. You've spoken your prayers. You've forgiven your enemies. You've even tried to forgive the man who once called you his beloved. The man who now wants you dead. You remember Henry's smile, the way he used to look at you like you were the only thing you ever wanted. You remember the touch of his hand, the sound of his laughter, and then you remember the silence that followed, the letters unanswered, the cold stares, the sudden change in the wind. You remember the trial, the lies, the false smiles of men who once bowed at your feet. You remember the moment it all turned. And yet, even now you stand with your back straight and your chin high. You feel the eyes on you as you walk closer. More people have arrived now, nobles, courtiers, even a few commoners, huddled at the edges. Some came to grieve, others came to gawk. A few came just to see a queen fall. You wonder what they'll whisper after it's done. Will they call you a traitor? A witch? Or will they speak quietly of your courage? You step onto the wooden platform. The boards creak beneath your feet. The man who will end your life is already here. He doesn't wear armor. He doesn't carry a heavy axe. He looks almost ordinary. The French swordsman, brought in by Henry himself. Some say it was a final kindness. Others say it was to make your death look clean, quick, less cruel. You don't know which it is. You don't care anymore. The wind picks up, your veil flutters behind you. You turn to the crowd and begin to speak. Your voice is steady, clear. You don't blame anyone. You don't beg. You don't curse the king. You say only what you must. You speak of God, of duty, of forgiveness. The words feel strange in your mouth, but you say them anyway. You want to be remembered with grace, even if grace was never shown to you. When you're done, you look at the swordsman. He nods slightly. He won't raise the blade until you're ready. It's the only kindness left. You kneel. You adjust your dress so that nothing looks out of place. Your ladies step forward to tie the cloth over your eyes, but you stop them. You want to see the light, even if it's only for a moment longer. You bow your head, fold your hands, and wait. There's no drum, no cry, only silence. Then a quiet step behind you. A whisper of steel. Being drawn dot and nothing dot, not even time. The night before had passed not in sleep, but in silence. After the gates were locked and the world outside faded into shadows, Anne asked to be taken to the small chapel. No one spoke. They didn't have to. Everyone knew why she wanted to go. The air inside was cold, and the candlelight flickered along the stone walls like the last heartbeat of hope. She knelt alone at the altar, her fingers wrapped tightly around the wooden cross she had carried for days. Her head was bowed. Her lips moved barely. The prayers weren't for mercy anymore. They were for peace, if such a thing could still be found. Her ladies sat at the edge of the room, quiet as ghosts. Some watched her, some looked away. One of them held a handkerchief wet with tears. None of them spoke. What could they say? That it would be all right? That justice would come? They all knew better now. Anne did not cry. She did not ask for comfort. She spoke only to God, and even then, in a voice too soft for anyone else to hear. Minutes passed, then hours. Time lost its shape inside those walls. She gave her final confession just before midnight. The priest listened carefully, leaning close. He asked the question that weighed heavier than any crown. Was she innocent? Anne looked at him for a long moment, then she nodded. Just once. She didn't cry. She didn't plead. She simply said, God knows my heart. And that was all. No dramatic words. No anger. Just quiet and the truth as she knew it. When it was over, she returned to her chamber without a sound. The guards stepped aside. The doors closed behind her. She lay down on the narrow bed, fully dressed, her hands still clutching the cross. No sleep came. Only thoughts of her daughter, of her brother, of the life she'd almost had. No one heard her speak again that night. History would write its own version of these final hours. It always does. But history wasn't there. History doesn't remember the cold. It doesn't remember the shaking hands, the whispered prayers, the way a heart breaks quietly in the dark. History will decide. But history is cruel. There was a time when Anne stood taller than anyone else in the kingdom. A time when the crowds chanted her name and roses were thrown at her feet. Her coronation had been nothing short of dazzling, a golden procession through the heart of London. Music, silk, jewels, a new queen for a new England. Henry had looked at her like she was made of light. His obsession burned in his eyes. He had torn apart his marriage, defied the Pope, and reshaped the church, all for her. And for a time, the country believed in the dream. Anne was young, bold, clever. She would give them sons. She would give them strength. But glory fades quickly in a court built on whispers. It began slowly, a miscarriage, then another. Each loss chipped away at the foundation she stood on. Henry's eyes began to wander. The smiles became shorter, the rooms colder. And then came the silence, the kind that creeps in before a storm. Cromwell, once her ally, shifted like smoke. He watched. He listened, and when the time came, he moved. The court that once cheered her began to shift its weight. Friends turned into shadows. Courtiers who once bowed low now looked past her. Small rumors bloomed like poison, quiet at first, then louder. Affairs, witchcraft, treason, lies carefully planted, watered, and grown by the hands of powerful men. The machinery of betrayal had been set in motion, slow and heavy like a stone rolling downhill. And Anne, who had once danced through the halls in silk and laughter, now walked carefully, knowing every step might be her last. She had tasted glory. She had worn the crown. But now, even before the trial began, guilt was being stitched into her name. It happened suddenly, but not without warning. The silence that had followed her for weeks finally spoke, not in words, but in footsteps, heavy ones, the kind that don't come with news, but with orders. Anne was in her chamber when they came. Her ladies froze. She stood still, staring at the men who had come to take her away. No one explained at first. She wasn't told where or why, only that she must come. For a moment, confusion flickered in her eyes. Was this a mistake? Some cruel misunderstanding? But as she stepped into the hallway and saw the faces turned away from her, the ones that used to greet her with smiles, now refusing to meet her gaze, the truth began to settle in. This was no accident. It had begun. She was taken to the tower, the very place her enemies had waited for her to fall. And now she had arrived. The charges came quickly, like blades thrown at a moving target. Adultery, incest, treason, each one more outrageous than the last. Each one designed not just to break her reputation, but to bury her completely. They accused her of sleeping with men she had barely spoken to, of plotting against the very king she had once loved, of sins so dark they could not be imagined without disgust. And yet they expected everyone to believe them. The trial was held in public, but the outcome had already been written. The men who sat in judgment had been chosen for their loyalty, not their honesty. Witnesses were brought forward with stories as thin as mist. The men accused with her were tortured, threatened, or simply disposed of. None of it mattered. It was never about truth. It was about removal. Anne stood tall in the courtroom. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. When asked if she had anything to say, she said only this: "I am the wife of the king." Her voice didn't tremble. She still wore her pride like a crown, even as they tried to strip it from her but outside that courtroom, beyond the walls of the tower, the decision had already been made. This wasn't justice. It was an execution in disguise. And Anne, fierce, brilliant Anne, had been trapped in a web spun by hands she once trusted.